Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today is the 26th of September 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Thursday's afternoon session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, also a very quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, but specifically our JFD Research tab here, which you can always also check out on a daily basis, and I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here. So yeah, feel free to visit us here and have a look, and yep, I believe that it could be quite useful. Right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the FTSE100. I talked about the FTSE this morning, and basically I was talking about this potential move higher. Given that at the time when we were looking at this morning, I mean, the market was not open yet, so it was kind of around the 7,000. This is where it closed yesterday, around the 7,284 zone, around 90, so something like that. But what I was saying, that for us, in order to consider a further move higher, for example, we would need to see a nice, good, strong push above the 7,380 zone. So we've managed to test that territory. We had a nice spike here to the upside, but as you can see, the level here is keeping the price down still. So even though we did have an overshoot here, the price kind of got back below it. So this, you can see that it's quite an interesting and important and a strong resistance level here. So we're going to wait for that confirmation break, and ideally a nice good close of at least of a 4-hour candle above this level before we could examine higher levels. Because of course, it would be great to see a daily candle closing here above this level. But if we start seeing a 4-hour candle closing above this, then at least there could be a slight bigger chance. A slight chance for this one to kind of push further north, and the next level on the upside here for us could be around the 7,476 zone, which previously acted as a good area of support, and this time it could take the role of resistance. In terms of the downside, well, I mean, for us here at this point, of course, ideally a drop below the 7,200 zone. That's what we would need to see in order, let's say, to consider a move lower here. But again, it's quite a big move here. In a way, we could start looking at lower levels if we see a drop back below the 7,284 zone here, and then yep, we could potentially consider a possible slide towards the 7,200 zone. But like I said, this is the area that we need in order to consider a further decline here. So we need to see a drop below the 7,200 levels. Keep your eyes on this one. For now, it seems to be willing. Well, it seems at least showing some signs that it could be willing to move higher, but again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's wait for that confirmation close, at least of a 4-hour candle above the 7,380 zone, and then we'll aim for higher levels. Nasdaq100, I talked about this one yesterday in my Traders Tea Time, and basically I was talking about this kind of nice rising wedge formation. But if you don't want to look at it as a rising wedge, you can just concentrate on this upside support line. So this is what I was talking about yesterday, because basically what I was saying yesterday was that even if we see a drop below this upside line, as long as it closes below this, then yep, we will consider further declines potentially, of course, especially if it also closes below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. But as you can see, neither of the 4-hour candles closed. Neither, of course, the daily didn't close. The day closed in the positive territory here. And it also closed above this 7,770 zone, so which is quite a good indication of a potential further move north. Of course, looking at the cash index right now, there is a bit of a decline, but as long as it remains above the 7,770 zone, we will continue aiming higher, even if, especially if it even breaks above the 7,873 zone, which was marked here by the high of Tuesday. So excuse me. So for now, everything seems to be working out nicely for the buyers. Let's see if they manage to maintain this this index here above this upside line. If they do, then yes, of course, we will continue aiming higher. But if this suddenly, let's say, reverses back down, drops below the upside line, and starts drifting below the 200 EMA, now this is where we will start potentially examining lower levels. But just for that extra confirmation, a drop below the 7,600 zone here could do the trick for more sellers, and more of them could be joining in and pushing this one down. So again, guys, that's in terms of the downside. But again, like for now, judging from the chart at this point in time, I mean, of course, the market has not opened yet, but looking at the cash index, it's still kind of roughly balancing above this 7,770 zone. Let's see if it can stay here. If it can, then there could be a nice move higher here. Initially, we'll target the 7,873 zone, but then we'll aim for these slightly higher levels here around the psychological 8,000 level. So keep your eyes on this one. Let's see how this is going to play out. It's quite an interesting one. Yep, keep your eyes on the price action. Jumping into another index, but this one is a DXY one. So you can see that the it was a while ago that I've looked at this one, and last time I've talked about this was I was saying to keep an eye on this barrier right here, the 98.75 zone. So we had a nice pop above this. It drifted higher, and it managed to reach our target near the 99.10 zone. So perfect hit. Of course, we did have a nice overshoot a little bit here, but as you can see now, the index is drifting back down. That said, even though it is drifting back down a little bit here, still we are going to remain somewhat bullish. As long as it stays above this 98.75 zone, we will continue aiming to the upside. But if this 98.75 zone starts failing, then, well, I mean, we could see a drift lower. The only thing is that with the downside here is very tricky, a little bit tricky. In a way, if you want, you could consider this upside line here as well. But to be honest, it's a very tentative one. Of course, we could maybe see some buyers coming in here, and in a way, let's assume this decides to travel lower and drops below the 98.75. By the time it could travel towards this upside line, the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart could also approach this area and also could provide a bit of support. So that's why we will have our downside scenario only from the area around the 98.45 zone, so right here. So if we get a drop below this, then yep, we will aim for lower levels. If we continue seeing this one trading above the 98.75 zone, yes, this could reverse quickly and push back to the upside, where we could target this little area here, the 99.21, or even this little high here, or should I say the highest point of September, and that's around the 99.37 zone. So good potential target, but we would need to see a nice rebound from here, from this 98.75 zone, or maybe just slightly above here near the 98.80 zone, something like that. So approximately around there, guys. Keep your eyes on this territory. If this starts dropping below the 98.75, then this area will be somewhat of a neutral one for us, and then all eyes will be on this this upside line, and of course the 200 EMA. Another instrument, and this time is a pair, and something that probably you don't look at very often. Excuse me. So I just wanted to quickly show you what's happening here. So basically, the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen, after kind of reversing to the downside here on the 11th of September, I'm talking about the short term, of course, move here. I mean, overall, it is kind of on a slide here. And overall, it's kind of looking like this, basically somewhat moving sideways, but slightly tilted, I would say. But anyway, so that's why we're looking at this one from the short term perspective. So you can see that the pair It was drifting lower, trading below this little tentative downside line, but yesterday the pair managed to break above this downside line and stayed above it. So today we're seeing this kind of movement sideways here a little bit, but still the rate is staying above this downside line. So how we could look at this here, guys, basically we're going to be waiting for a possible breakout. So in a way, this is the territory to consider, the area around the 81.35 zone. If we get a nice pop above this would confirm a forthcoming higher high on a shorter time frame here, and we could aim for slightly higher levels, like the, for example, area right here. Let me just quickly put this one on the chart, and that's around the 81.70 zone. Or if that fails to withstand the bull pressure, then the next potential target could be around the 82.10 zone, approximately around there, which is basically near the highest point of September. So yep, guys, keep your eyes on this one. Could be quite an interesting one, but again, like I said, before we could consider a possible move higher here, we need to see a push above the 81.35 zone first, and only then we'll aim for these slightly higher levels. And let me just quickly put the highlighted area here for our future reference. We'll have a look at this one, how it got along, maybe later, maybe tomorrow, or maybe next week. But it is quite an interesting one. So let's say this decides to reverse back down. Let's say if it travels back below the downside line, this little territory here will be somewhat of a neutral one for us, because even if it drops below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, still ideally we would like to see a drop below this little territory here near the 80.7270 zone, something like that. This is a 65 just for that extra confirmation, but we'll start looking at lower levels if we see a drop below this one, the 80.72 zone here, and then we'll aim for slightly lower areas, like for example this one right here near the highs of the 29th of August and the 30th of August, and that's approximately around the 80.24 zone. So again, guys, we'd rather be safe than sorry, so that's why we're going to wait for this level here in order for us to consider, let's say, the downside here, at least a little bit. So keep your eyes on this pair, quite interesting one. Let's see how this is going to play out. GBPUSD. So we had a nice test of this area right here, the 1.2310. I talked about this pair this morning, and basically what I was saying, that given the fact that we were still trading around the 200 EMA basically, but what I said was that even if we see a drop lower, this could be quite an important, interesting level to watch, the 1.2310. So we had a perfect hit, and now the pair is retracing back up here. In a way, what we could see happening here is something like this, where the pair could again test the 1.2380 zone from underneath, and if it struggles to overcome it, then we could see another leg of selling here. So in a way, we could see something like this. So this is a bit of a risky idea here. In a way, the safer strategy would be to wait for a drop below the 1.2310 zone here, and then aim for lower levels. We will then aim, of course, for the 1.2280, but probably I'll readjust one of the levels here quickly. This is the area that we're going to be targeting. Then the 1.2230 zone could be a nice potential target here. So that's why, guys, that's why for now, of course, keep your eyes on this pair, and keep an eye on the way and where it's going to close, actually the way it's going to move here, and where it's going to close, because if is it going to stay below the 1.2380, then there's still some chances for the bears to jump in here and drive this one lower. For those who are more on the cautious side, you could in a way just wait for a drop below the 1.2310 zone here, and then aim for lower levels. For those who are more on the riskier side, as I said, the 1.2380, keep an eye on that one. For us to consider the upside, still the same scenario remains. We need to see a push back above this this neckline that the pair kind of broke yesterday, of this head and shoulders formation. So if this gets back above this upside line here, this neckline, then yep, we will start considering maybe a slightly higher levels. We'll aim for the 1.25 territory, 1.2520. These are the good ones to watch, but of course, if those fail to withhold, then yep, further acceleration to the upside is possible. But again, like I said, for now, it seems that the pair looks more bearish than bullish, so keep your eyes on some of these levels that I've just mentioned. And the euro dollar, the last pair for the session, and boom, perfect touch of the 1.0924 zone that I've talked about for quite a while, or to be honest, for the whole week here. And we had a nice test of it, and we had a nice rebound as well. So at this point in time right now, of course, we are shifting our breakout point to the downside now. So we're going to wait for a drop below the 1.0924 before we could examine lower levels, because as you understand yourself, basically this is quite an important level. And so let me just kind of put this highlighted territory here. There we go. And because as you can see, we already kind of almost, well, 3 times we already had the test of this area. Here on the 12th of September, we almost managed to test that area, but still kind of in a way count. And you can see that today we also had a test, and the 3rd test, and it rebounded again. So for now, we're going to remain very cautious, because we cannot say that this is kind of opening, let's say, the door for higher levels. With the upside in general here on euro dollar is very tricky, so it's better to go slowly to the upside. So probably this is going to be more of a short-term trader's paradise here. So in a way, if we get a push above the 1.0983 zone, then yes, we will start looking at higher levels again. We'll aim for the 1.1024 or even towards this downside resistance line. But then again, like I said, we'll keep it short and simple, because here, if this downside line holds again, we could see this one curving up and pushing back to the downside. So again, keep this idea in mind. For now, you can see that the pair managed to rebound from the 1.0924. It made its way higher, but this is the level, the 1.0964 seems to be, for now, kind of holding the rate down. So again, let's see how this is going to perform. If, let's say, today we get a close somewhere in this territory, this is even probably going to be better for us, because we'll wait for tomorrow and see if it'll decide to break one of these highlighted levels here, and move further in the direction of the break. So that's why, guys, for now, probably the suggestion here is, given that we already managed to reach the 1.0924 zone and we had a nice rebound from it, and the pair is still kind of between these two levels, the 1.0924 and the 1.0983, we'll remain neutral. We'll remain just kind of aside from it. We're not going to touch this one. And like I said, we're going to wait for a breakthrough one of these levels. If we get a drop below the 1.0924, that's great news for the sellers, because this could be opening the path. And let me just jump into a weekly chart on this one. If we see a drop below this 1.0924 area, then this could be opening the path towards the 1.08. I do apologize for the amount of lines, and this is the weekly chart, so it's a bit squeezed here. So basically, we're going to aim for the low of the weekly low here of May, at the beginning of May here, and that was around the 1.0939, 1.0839. So approximately around there. So that could be a nice potential target first. The 1.0839, that's where we're going to be targeting. But again, like I said, we would need to see a break here, a drop below the 1.0924 first before we could examine that level. And like I said, in terms of the upside, a break above the 1.0983 could do the trick here for the buyers, but probably temporarily up until this downside line, and then we'll take it from there, see what it wants to do. If it wants to break this downside line, that's wonderful. We'll aim for higher levels, but if it holds again, then we could see another leg of selling. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me tomorrow morning, as always, at my Traders Espresso, and that's 6 o'clock GMT time, we'll have a look at some of these instruments just to see how they've performed during the US session. But for those who are finished for today, yep, have a nice evening. Well, actually, for those who are not finished for today as well, still trading, also have a nice evening. But for those, yeah, who if you're still trading, be very careful, guys. Be very cautious. Always have your stop loss in place. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.